Good morning. Surprise. Good news is no dog duty this morning. Duty. So I get to talk about what I was going to talk about yesterday, which is the reason why we should face nature, face adversity. I think it's an important part of not just genetically who we are, but culturally who we are as Americans. And I was going to talk about that yesterday morning while I walked. But today, it's not overcast. It is super duper bright in the morning. So since we're walking towards the sun, towards my favorite tree, of course, I'm going to have to put on the shades. Obviously, in the past, people had things that they had to overcome every day just to survive. Mortality rate among infants and little children, peasants, serfs, etc., they would lose half their children, maybe more. Sometimes you'd lose all of your kids. Life used to be brutal, savage, terrible. Then past that, you had to worry about other problems, starvation, the elements destroying your house. You didn't have running water and plumbing. You had to worry about your own piss and shit poisoning where you lived. So we used to live in a much more hostile way, even up to like 100 years ago in this country we did. And the modern era, meaning the massive changes to society, technology, living conditions, medicine of the last 100 years, take away everything, take away the anti-white narrative, take away all of the ugly corporate profiteering shit from the medical industry. Even if you take away all of that, we still have been made soft by the removal of impediments to survival. The technological advancements that we have basically take us out of the predator's mouths. It takes our children away from disease. These natural culling elements that used to make sure only the strong survived. And again, I'm not saying that we need to live exactly that way. I'm not saying that we have to all be, mountain men and be the Appalachian Taliban or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But we need to realize we have to be uncomfortable and we have to put ourselves at risk to trigger the genetics that we need to actually win, to be great. Because if you don't actually face challenges, adversity, danger, then that quote-unquote muscle in you atrophies. It doesn't get any exercise. And I think that has been to our great detriment as people in the modern world. And it is especially to our detriment when the people that I care about most, my people, my country, we have become weak and complacent. And I think that most of you who follow me can relate to that. So what do you do about it? What can we do about it? Because on this channel, I don't like to just say what the problem is. There's a million people blackpilling the shit out of everybody doing that all the time. I don't want to do that. I want to tell you guys something constructive and healthy to do about it. I think that what we can do to interface with challenges, adversity of our modern era is primarily weaning ourselves off of the teat of the machine that not only hates us and wants to control us, but makes us weak. What do I mean specifically? Instead of just going to the supermarket, instead of just grabbing what you can at a store to eat, go out of your way to make some of your own food. And again, you can live somewhere where you don't even have access to farmlands. I'm not saying that everybody has to live in the middle of nowhere like me and buy stuff from local farmers markets and stuff. You, with a little bit of investment, can grow a few things inside in a little grow lab, maybe some herbs, maybe a couple of easy things to make like peppers, or maybe a vine of tomatoes outside if you have the climate for it. Also, instead of making your own food, get used to raising animals. It doesn't take much money to start raising a few chickens. It's easy to learn. There's tons of YouTube tutorial videos about building a cheap, small chicken coop for like 5 or 6 hens, having one rooster. It's easy to get involved with making your own food, having your own animals, and doing that, it teaches you the connection to nature and the responsibility that we all should think about as we make decisions for our children's lives, for our friends and loved ones' lives, decisions for ourselves. And another element is social risk, societal risk, economic risk. Nobody owes you money. Nobody owes you electricity. Nobody owes you the comfort of having a Steam account. All of these things of modernity, are they nice? Are they fun bells and whistles? Sure, that's fine. But it makes you soft if those things being taken from you cripple you from necessary action in other ways. And I think that a good life-building, character-building exercise is to wean yourself off of those things, or if you don't stop using those things, like still playing video games and etc., get in the mindset of what it would be like to live without those things and make small concessions to yourself. Say like, hey, instead of playing this video game for 30 hours this week in my free time, I'm going to play this video game 20 hours a week. 20 hours in my free time this week, and with those other 10 hours, I'm going to walk to the nearby church, and I'm going to see if they need any volunteer work. I'm going to go to my nearby gun club instead. I don't even own guns, but you know what? I need to get active with people in real life and go meet others. So shave off a little bit of whatever luxury or I don't want to say something ugly here. Whatever vice or comfort that modernity gives you in your life, shave a little bit off of that and do something productive along the lines of what I'm talking about. Or at least focus on self-improvement of a physical or combative nature. Take some combat training, take some firearm training, take some survival training. Maybe instead of, I don't know, going on a private weekend vacation, maybe you take a few days off, maybe you have a 4-day weekend coming up. Instead of just getting a bunch of weed or drinking a bunch of beer and playing video games or whatever, maybe go on a camping trip, a survival trip. Ask around, see who does any kind of survival or nature training, any homesteading training, and at least familiarize yourself with a little bit of knowledge that can make a huge difference if this modern world starts to fall apart, or if they particularly cut you out of it. There are so many little things that we can do to step outside of the anesthetization, I think is the way to say that, the being anesthetized by all of the comforts and the habits of the modern era. Social media, smartphones, being connected to the internet, wanting to check Facebook all the time, you got to kick that shit out. You have to realize that stuff, it makes you weak. It's like a drug. It's like having heroin. It's like being addicted to porn. It's the same kind of shit going on in your head that makes you a slave to that constant dopamine hit, to that faux society that's not real. Facebook groups and stuff, they can serve a great purpose. IRCs, Discord servers, all of those are beneficial, useful tools. But if it's all you do, and it's what your mind thinks it needs and prioritizes above other things, then you are weak. You have no internal power, because that can be taken away from you easily. And we're seeing it happen all the time. Google and Apple and these other giant multinational companies, they are structuring how they control business, trade, education, everything, so they can cut you and they can cut me out of it, and we don't get to play anymore. You have to get your head in the game. You have to teach your kids, your church group, your family, your friends. You have to lead by example. Why do I tell you guys all the time? Be the hero that you want to see in the world. We don't have any left in the higher ups of society. It's all cancer. It's all corrupt. We have to be the change on the ground. We have to lead people by example. And you can't do that if you're, I don't know, an out-of-shape fat guy who's addicted to porn and booze. It's not going to work. You're not going to be a hero. You're not going to lead people. You have to make yourself better. You have to live by healthy practices. You have to educate yourself and habitualize yourself into doing healthy, productive things. It's going to be uncomfortable if you're stuck in modernity. It is uncomfortable. I had to unplug from things too in the last 10 or 12 years. It's not easy, but you have to do it, because the only other option is staying a slave, staying connected to the machine. And I think that no one who listens to me wants that. I don't think anybody who listens to my channel wants to be just, I don't know, to use the Matrix movie, like I don't think you want to be just a battery in some giant heartless corporate machine. I don't think that you want to raise your children to think that prioritizing, stocks and making sure that they play ethical video games and stuff, that shouldn't be all that life is. Life has to be more than that. And if you're watching my channel, you probably agree with that. So what are you going to do about it? what are you going to do? First of all, you can homeschool or community school or do some kind of private school that you can know and that you can trust and talk to the people there, and you have active engagement over your child's education to know what's being taught to them. Number two, I talk about going free a lot. We should all implement at least the basic concepts and tools of going free. And yes, I know I've been saying for months that I'm going to make a series about that. I just need to make the time to do it. Number three, you need to make sure that you live in a way that expresses the necessity of self-reliance and independence. And I'm not talking about liberty or whatever. I mean independence from structures that want you to be a slave, want you to be a cog in the machine. That can take form in the things we were talking about earlier, or it can be something just as simple as teaching your child not to be on the smartphone all day long. In fact, maybe don't get your kids a smartphone at all. I don't know. I'm not a parent, so I don't like to speak outside of the things that I don't know anything about. But I do know that from what I see in society, of the people who hate us, want to remove us, and or control us, they put an awful lot of effort into getting as much of their cancer into our kids' minds as possible. They do that through video games, they do it through the phone that they hold in their hand, and they do it through the cancer they get taught at school. So even though I'm not a parent, I think that I speak with authority on the issue when I say that must be how this cancer spreads, is they target the youth through subliminal messages and through blatant messaging in cartoons, video games, public service announcements, kids shows, school books, material that are shown in schools, people that they invite to schools to talk and give lectures and shit. This has to stop, because if we have an entire generation of Western kind raised to hate themselves and to not know their history and their past, then we're gone. It takes one generation. Yuri Bezmenov was right about that. We are dangerously close to the precipice of that in many white countries right now. And it's going to be a dark day if that ever happens. So you can resist that. Uh-oh, there's a car coming. You can resist that, but okay, just making sure there wasn't another one coming. You can resist that by leading by example to your children, to people in the young people in your youth group at church, or wherever it is that you can find favor or influence in the people around you. You have to show people, hey, it's okay to want to subsistence live, or to learn about how to shoot a gun, or how to do some basic farming. It's okay to learn about all of these things that we need to be learning about. And in doing so, you're going to not only prove to yourself that there is adversities and challenges out there that you don't need the comforts of modernity for. You can do it yourself. But it is the mindset, it's the spiritual energy. And if you want to get scientific about it, it is the genetic powers that we have that need to be triggered by external stimuli. And if you make yourself constantly pampered, then you're going to be weak. And even if you have great genetics in you, if you have the warrior spirit, or if you have some kind of other genetics that gives you some kind of unique brilliance, if you're not challenged, if you don't put yourself at least in a surrogate of harm's way, then those things aren't going to be triggered in you, and that muscle is going to be atrophied forever. You're not even going to know if you have it or not. So that's the message of today, is realize that we cannot let ourselves be defeated by our own desire for comfort and safety. It's not going to work. It's only going to make us weaker, and it's going to rob your children of a future. So I'm going to leave that there. And that's what I wanted to get out yesterday morning. Maybe it was Providence that let me have this bright sun to do it this morning. I don't know. But even though the sun is bright, it certainly is cold. There's still frost on the ground that hasn't melted yet. So I love all of you. Speak the truth to all who have the ears to hear it. Keep heart, and we will speak up against tyranny and hopefully build the connections and organizations along the way that we need to defeat this ugly anti-Western narrative that threatens to consume us all. Until next time.